Welcome to the Project Management PrepCast, helping you prepare for the PMP exam. Here's your instructor, Cornelius Fichtner.
Hello and welcome to the Project Management PrepCast, where project management, the PMP exam and your tablet come together. I'm your instructor, Cornelius Fichtner. This is the introduction to project management and an overview of the discipline as a whole. You might as well get the big picture before we get into the details. The topics included in this overview are how projects differ from operations. We talk about the discipline of project management as a whole. We'll also discuss relationships among disciplines. We look at project management offices, the PMOs. We'll discuss business value of projects. Then we're going to be talking about you and me, the project manager. And of course, we'll take a look at the PMBOK guide. Before we go any further in this course, we must start with the most basic question. What is a project? Because if you don't know the true definition of a project, how do you know that you've actually worked on a project? Is it just because somebody told you that, well, you're now working on a project, that you then believed them? Well, you can believe me when I tell you what a project is, or rather, you can believe the source that we are using, because here is the definition that comes straight from the PMBOK guide. A project is a temporary endeavor undertaken to create a unique product, service, or result. Let's break down that definition and look at the individual components. Temporary means that it has a definitive, clear beginning and clearly defined end. Unique, that means that it is new and has never been done before. Maybe it has been done in a similar fashion, but not exactly in this way here. Even version 2 is different than version 1. Product, service, or result means that PMI recognizes the fact that not every output of a project can be touched. Maybe you are producing a service, for example, a new consulting offering to existing customers, or maybe the purpose of your project is to improve morale on the shop floor. So how then are projects different than operations? This is obviously an important thing to decipher, but really not that difficult to understand. Simply put, projects are for a defined term of time. Whether short, medium, or long, a project is always for a predetermined duration. Projects are also supposed to complete their objectives, or objective, whatever they may be, but they are the chartered purpose of undertaking that particular effort. And then they cease to exist. Like a race, your objective is to finish the course with the resources you have in an expected time and pace and so on. And once you cross the finish line, the race is over. Unlike operations, which continue indefinitely as ongoing work, operations, they sustain the core business of your organization, and then they continue to exist within the organization, either in a similar fashion or in an improved manner. All right, we now know exactly what projects are and what they are not. So let's ask, why do we do projects at all? Why bother? What's wrong with just doing operations and keeping the lights on? Well, projects may be here to support one or more of the following elements. A market demand. As in the case of this Project Management PrepCast project here, we have heard that you, our adoring fans, are begging for more high-quality project management training, so we developed it for you. Maybe there is an organizational need, like the need to improve an internal process or payment system, or the organization's external need to be a player in a certain competitive space. There could be a customer request. Maybe they offer to partner with you to expand one of your service offerings, or a bid is announced worth $2 million, and it seems like a good idea for your organization to jump onto that train. There could be a technological advance, either the forced kind, those VCR tapes, they are not really the best things for your marketing department to be sending out to potential clients, or maybe it's the other extreme of your company to be on the bleeding edge of the technology space. Or it could be a legal requirement, and this too can be forced like a new law or some type of governmental need. So in conclusion, organizations undertake projects for various reasons. The majority, if not all, projects are undertaken to support your organization's strategic plan, whether they do it directly or indirectly. In the end, for whichever strategic reason the project is undertaken, it must bring value to your organization. Otherwise, what's the point of doing the project in the first place? How value is measured is different for different organizations. So the definition of value varies. Companies can see value in a whole slew of ways, especially in economic terms. Return on investment, if you will. Even if not directly in the hands of the customer, for example, a sparkling new product in the end user's hands, projects can still have value and add value, making internal processes more efficient and effective, may explicitly and noticeably save the company money, although sometimes these gains may not have implicit monetary gains or impact in hard measurable ways, but they can still provide and prove value. It does not all have to be about money as well. The value on investment may be for non-monetary reasons, possibly to represent the goodwill and corporate citizenry of an organization, or maybe that's what the organization is all about. You are a charity organization. Now that we know what a project is and why organizations undergo them, the next question has to be, well, what is project management? And what makes project management so significant that they make a whole certification and exam on it? Well, project management is defined in the PMBOK guide as the application of knowledge, skills, tools, and techniques to project activities to meet the project requirements. So, what exactly is it that we do? We take our knowledge, we take our skills, as well as our tools and techniques, and we apply these to our daily work on the projects so that we can achieve what we had originally set out to do. But this does not mean that the knowledge described should always be applied uniformly on all projects. Quite far from it. Instead of blindly applying every tool that we know on every single project, we customize and tailor the tools to our needs. This means that you apply the appropriate and necessary parts of the knowledge and methodology to your project where appropriate. As an example, let's compare this to skiing. A downhill skier would never use a slalom swing in a downhill race, even though a slalom swing is part of skiing. The skier applies the correct tools and techniques for the particular situation, and you use and incorporate the project management best practices as it best fits for that particular project, in that particular instance, for those specific project needs. And where do we find these best practices of project management that we are supposed to apply? When starting your journey of becoming a PMP, I am sure that you realize that the primary document which the entire PMP exam revolves around is the PMBOK guide. Let's start out with what the acronym PMBOK actually stands for. It stands for Project Management Body of Knowledge. And, of course, we have highlighted the appropriate letters here, PMBOK, PMBOK Guide. The idea behind this name is the fact that the complete knowledge about the project management profession is constantly changing, evolving, and growing. This was and is the attempt to document knowledge about project management. As an easy comparison, look at science. We're always trying to capture and share knowledge in science, even as it is always changing or being better understood or applied in new and unique ways. It is the same with the profession of project management. The body of knowledge is changing and progressively expanding. At the same time, we capture it, learn from it, apply it, and rewrite it. Therefore, a little bit of the total knowledge of project management rests with each one of us. With that in mind, project management is an art. The PMBOK guide attempts to understand and break down the best practices that apply to most projects most of the time in order for you to manage your projects. Conducting project management or performing the discipline in a perfect manner is, well, impossible, because there is no perfect. But we can learn from what has worked, give it labels, and use it again. The attempt is to collect all of this information, although you can never write it down completely. That is why the PMBOK guide is a guide, an overview, an attempt to document all the knowledge that we have about project management. An important point to understand is the fact that the PMBOK guide is not a project management methodology, but it is actually a framework upon which specific project management methodologies can be created and built on. It is also a global standard recognized by ANSI, the American National Standards Institute. You can use different methodologies and tools to implement the PMBOK guide framework. The PMBOK guide describes the nature of project management processes in terms of the integration between the processes, their interactions, and the purposes that they serve. These are based on universal practices that have worked for many in the project management discipline, but it doesn't go into the detailed levels of breaking it down to processes and templates that you can apply in your company for any particular project. We're moving on to the project manager. This is you, obviously, and soon to be a PMP certified you. Whether certified or not, what is the point of a project manager? Well, there are a lot of demands on a project. Someone needs to handle these demands and make the project fulfill the objectives. A project manager has the responsibility to satisfy the needs, and these needs include the task needs to complete the necessary project management work, managing the team needs that affect the project, including establishing a more ideal, productive project environment, and taking care of individual needs. To conduct this effectively, the project manager must have certain broad competencies, knowledge of the project and the industry, as well as project management knowledge, performance ability to act and do all that is expected and accomplish all that is required for project success, and personal ability to behave and express the appropriate business sense, professionalism, personality, leadership, and attitude, a characteristic that is very difficult, if not impossible, to teach in a class. It's a competency that is learned and developed over time and experience and through individual coaching. The role of us project managers is the link between the strategy and the team. We are the ones responsible for navigating the project to its objectives, and this requires many skills. We cannot list them all here, but how about a few examples? General management knowledge and your general management skills are required. These are the expected skills of all managers, whether you are a functional manager, an operational manager, or a project manager. Skills like organization, like your ability to plan the project properly, to have some meeting management skills, and of course to control the project and bring it to a successful conclusion. I'm sure you know that general management knowledge and skills alone do not make a good project manager. It also takes those interpersonal skills, those soft skills, or sometimes also referred to as the people skills. Skills like your communication abilities, including dialogue with others, presentation, writing, articulation, and so on. Influence, including how you influence project work, the people who work on them, and the stakeholders applying their influence on the project. We need to take leadership into consideration, to take the team, yourself, and others beyond just getting by. Ability to motivate is another item you need to be aware of in terms of your interpersonal skills. Like others and yourself, they have to meet and continue to meet expectations that we have on the project, and motivation is a big factor towards meeting those expectations. You need to be able to negotiate maybe with other functional managers because you need additional resources. You have to be able to build trust and maintain that trust with the stakeholders. And even though there are plenty more examples, let's end with political and cultural awareness. Projects must operate within the same political spheres as all other work. There's just no avoiding it. Knowing how to maneuver within that political environment, or how to play the politics when needed, is a valuable skill for us project managers to possess. And that brings us to the competing project constraints. Maybe you have heard the term the triple constraints. It is a very popular term in project management circles. Please forget this term right now. Throw it away. The triple constraints model of only using time, cost, and scope is outdated. So let's remove that triple constraints here from the slide and wipe it from our memories completely for the PMP exam. We now refer to the competing project constraints, because if you think about it, there is more constraining you and your team's ability to complete the project than just those old style 3 constraints. Therefore, we refer only to the competing project constraints. So there are many competing limitations on how you can fulfill your project objectives, and we call them the constraints. They are all important and all interrelated. A circumstance affecting one will affect the others. Aspects surrounding one need to be considered when looking at another. Hence the balancing act that we have to do in order to successfully manage a project is a very complex one. These competing project constraints, they are time or schedule for one. As I already mentioned with the definition of a project, there must be a definite beginning and end to your project. So naturally, time is a constraint, but also the amount of money that you have at your disposal or other costs that can be allocated. And then there is a limitation on how much work can actually be done in the time and within the cost that you have. We call that the scope. Then consider the quality of what is being produced. You cannot just do the work or scope in a certain amount of time and within a budget and just call it good. You have certain standards that you need to meet. Change or alter those standards, and you change or alter the constraint of schedule, scope, and budget. But wait, there is more. And I do sound like an infomercial right now, don't I? Well, consider the risks here. These are the opportunities and threats that are constraining your project. If a stakeholder, say your customer, is not willing to take a gamble on newer technology, well, then you are constrained. Even if in the inverse, if the customer demands cutting-edge technology, you're also constrained on what you must use or what skills are needed for your project. Which brings us to that next constraint. Resources. There are limits to what you have and can use, either because there are just not enough physical resources available to you, or people who have the cutting-edge skills that you need to carry out the project. Again, remember, these competing constraints are all interrelated. Characteristics of one influence to some degree the others. Changing one will, to some degree, change the others. Remember our comparison between projects versus operations a few slides back? Of course you do. Let's jump a little bit more into detail here, because operations management concerns itself with the day-to-day support of your organization, whereas project management concerns itself with the temporary endeavors. Nonetheless, projects may help operations achieve goals. For instance, a new pipeline was built for the business as part of a project with newer technology that enables the operational teams to better control the liquid flow and maintenance of the machinery. Projects, once completed, are often transitioned into operational control. Sometimes projects may be initiated to develop enhancements or improvements to the operations. Ergo, alignment and interaction between the two are expected. Operational stakeholders must be considered and managed within your project, because once your project is done, you're very likely going to hand over the result of your project to the operational teams. Project management is often not conducted in isolation. It is regularly part of other management disciplines. So let's start with a project here, say of a new operating system or OS that we want to have for a new phone that our organization is bringing out. This project is being conducted by a project manager using project management methodologies. Now, organizations, they rarely, if ever, are a one project organization. So let's say that there is also an app project that is to be rolled out with the new operating system. And of course, another project has to be done on the engineering side of the phone's new hardware. Well, these three projects, they're all related to each other, and they influence each other's plans and efforts for the creation of this new phone that we are trying to create. There seemingly would need to be some sort of oversight and coordination over these three projects. The management of multiple projects that require coordination is called program management. And where there is management over various programs or projects, you have portfolio management as well. Think of it as the high-level management of all the investments within the organization. So there could be a new phone, there could be the old phones, we could have tablets as well. That's all part of our company's portfolio. But also don't forget that project management and the others, they all operate within the management of the organization, our company as a whole, which is also known as the operational management. The Project Management Office, or PMO, is a structure within an organization that seeks to standardize governance of project-related processes and align them within our organization's objectives and strategies. A PMO, they can provide or share resources, they share tools, methodologies, techniques, templates, project managers, you name it. PMO structures, they have different styles and levels of controls, and some typical forms of PMOs can be that they are supportive, as in operating in more of a consulting manner, assisting project managers and their managers in work with templates, lessons learned, or training in project management related tasks. It could have a controlling form. The controlling form is under the premise to provide standards and compliance while supporting projects with the means to meet those standards or uniformed measures. Or it could be directive, where the PMO seeks to maintain a high level of control over all projects managed within the company, and possibly even managing them directly by having the project managers assigned to the PMO, and only PMO project managers are allowed to execute projects. PMOs are usually different in the sense that the project manager works on her specific project while the PMO manages resources, and they manage these resources across multiple projects. Here are a few ideas of what the PMO may be involved in. It may include training of us, the project managers. Maybe coordination of resources lies within the PMO's domain. They could be responsible for running the project management methodology, like updating it and creating it, and of course also maintaining document repositories where you store all those project documents that you create. Then, of course, we have monitoring and controlling of the project managers themselves, making sure that the projects stay on track. Also, the coordination of overall project management standards, making sure that we all follow the correct standards as we manage our projects. And of course, we're not just talking about monitoring the project managers, we're also talking about career management. So the PMO offers a career path to a project manager within the company. The project manager manages scope, schedule, cost, quality, while the PMO manages overall risk and overall opportunity across all of the projects within our organization. The project manager reports on one single project, while the PMO provides consolidated project reporting overall of the projects under its domain. And that concludes our overview of an introduction to project management. But before we go, here's a quick PMP exam tip for you, because we talked a lot about the PMBOK guide in this lesson here. And the worst thing that you could now do is go online and download some kind of a free pirated copy of the PMBOK guide. This is because the PMI's Code of Ethics and Professional Conduct clearly states that we must aspire to uphold intellectual property rights of others. As a PMP aspirant, you have agreed to uphold this code, and therefore downloading a free copy, a pirated copy of the PMBOK guide would be unethical. So don't start your journey towards the PMP exam on the wrong foot. There is a legal way of getting a free electronic copy of the PMBOK guide. Simply become a PMI member, because once you are a PMI member, you will receive a legal free copy of the PMBOK guide in PDF format. Yes, you're going to have to pay the PMI membership fee for this, but the discount that you receive on your PMP exam fee is actually greater than the membership fee you're going to have to pay to PMI. So become a PMI member, get your free PDF copy, legal free PDF copy of the PMBOK guide, and save money on your PMP exam as well. And with that, we have come to the end of this lesson. So it's time for Justine to say,
Keep on trucking.
And I say, until next time.